The following content contains triggering topics such as suicidal ideation, death, eating disorders, and drug use. Listener discretion is advised. Hi everyone, my name is Shani Kramer and welcome to the first episode of Cruel Curiosities. This is a podcast about the cruelest cases that you can't help but have an interest in. From horrific murders to bizarre medical cases, I'm here to sit down with you guys and go through the details of the cases that have honestly just been on my mind that I want to discuss and deep dive into. Our first episode today is about an Australian psychologist whose registration was recently cancelled due to investigations around a sexual relationship that he had with a patient, as well as other misconduct such as inappropriate prescriptions of medication and more. Before we begin, I just want to remind you guys to help out by interacting and supporting this podcast. This is the first episode and we're just a little small podcast at the moment, so any interaction, any ratings, subscribing, following, all of that really does help me a lot. So if you do any of that and support me and this podcast, thank you so much in advance. I really appreciate it. Alright, let's get into the case. And I want to start by looking at the person that we are talking about today. His name is Luke Johnson. I want to look at his history and kind of just how we got here. So Luke Johnson was born in 1971 and graduated with a Bachelor of Medicine and a Bachelor of Surgery from Flinders University in 2001 in Adelaide. He then obtained his Fellow of the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists in 2009. From 2004 to 2009, the practitioner worked as a senior registrar at Noarlunga Health Services in South Australia while working towards his RANZCP fellowship. He began working as a psychiatrist in 2009 in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales, Australia, as a sole practitioner. So before I talk about the misconduct and the reasons why Johnson's license was revoked, I kind of want to talk about previous patient reviews for him and his clinic and his practices and just, I guess, get a vibe of what people thought of him before all of this came out. So one patient 8 years ago left him 5 stars saying, quote, "It's life-changing. Dr. Luke Johnson has a warm approach and makes you feel like a person, not just a number. I've been seeing him a few times for treatment, and each time I see a difference in my life." Another person also left him 5 stars and said, "He is the best doctor mental health ever had and helps many people who are going through a hard time. I appreciate him a lot and his great service. I was a mess when I came to him and now holding a job down and helping the community. Without him, I don't know where I would end up. He's great and a good man and everyone should know that." Another person left him 1.5 stars and said, "A huge waste of time, does not care about patients nearly as much as he cares about his Porsche." Which, wow, that's wow. Another person left him 1 star and says, "A dishonest individual who should not be allowed to treat by patient. Be warned." Someone else said 2.5 stars. "I found him very egotistical, very overpriced for the little that I got from him." And finally, this person left him 5 stars and said, "Mental health can be a confrontational topic to discuss. I've never felt so comfortable discussing personal issues. His knowledge and ability to speak in layman's terms clearly and calmly is outstanding. Thank you. You're a credit to your profession." These statements and these reviews, there really is a mix of just these glowing reviews and then these horrible reviews, which I find really interesting. Clearly not everyone found him to be helpful, but overall it seems like he had a pretty good rapport with his patients and really good reviews before all of this came out. So let's get into the actual case that we are talking about today that got reviewed and resulted in his license being taken away. A person referred to only as patient A, who was 20 at the time, saw her GP complaining of worsening symptoms of depression, anxiety, and insomnia in the context of a long-standing mood disorder. She was referred to Dr. Johnson for assessment and management of her symptoms, and whilst on the waiting list, her GP saw patient A a further 2 times and recorded that she had reported overwhelming anxiety, panic attacks, intrusive thoughts, and paranoia. Johnson began treating patient A in April 2016 and subsequently had over 100 consults between April 7th, 2016 to late June 2017. At first in-person appointments at the practice and then via telehealth. According to case law in New South Wales, at the first consultation on the 7th of April 2016, patient A told Dr. Johnson that she had struggled with depression and anxiety since she was a teenager, with a history of an eating disorder and deliberate self-harm. She was stressed by her studies, had recently experienced paranoia after drinking alcohol to excess and smoking cannabis, and was experiencing insomnia, low energy, and impaired judgment. Dr. Johnson diagnosed patient A as suffering from major depressive disorder, cannabis use disorder, and borderline personality disorder. Johnson said that his goal in treating patient A had been to assist her to develop coping skills and strategies to stop her from sabotaging her own life. On the 18th of October 2016, during a consultation, Johnson mentioned his wife, to which patient A said, quote, "I don't want to talk about her, I want to talk about us," end quote. Johnson reported that he was taken aback as a relationship with her had not crossed his mind, and replied, quote, "What do you mean?" end quote. Patient A replied, quote, "I want to talk about a real relationship. I want to talk about us," end quote. Following with the proposal of Johnson moving to Sydney with her, which is around a 5-hour drive from Wagga Wagga. Dr. Johnson said that in the period leading up to this consultation with patient A, he had been under a lot of stress. Up until the end of September 2016, he'd been working very long hours to be able to pay a deposit on a property. He was married, but they were not getting along, and he felt that they were going separate ways. His home had been the target of an attempted and unsuccessful home invasion in October 2015, after which he and his wife slept with loaded guns beside their beds. He believed that there had been a second unsuccessful home invasion on the 17th of October 2016, during which his wife had pointed a loaded shotgun at him. Dr. Johnson said that he identified very, very strongly with patient A, found her attractive, and saw the proposal of moving to Sydney as an escape from the various stresses that he had in his life at that time. Dr. Johnson also said that in October 2016, he knew it was a very serious transgression of the rules governing the conduct of psychiatrists to enter into a relationship with the patient. He knew that the college had a zero-tolerance policy in regards to sexual boundary violations, so that once a relationship had developed, there was no way forward. When giving evidence, Dr. Johnson said that during this consultation and over the next few weeks, he felt as if he was in a disconnected, dreamlike state, which he attributed to being very stressed by all the events which had occurred in the preceding weeks and the very recent attempted home invasion. Dr. Johnson saw patient A again on the 21st, 25th, and 28th of October 2016, and said that they had both been in a daze while he was trying to work out what was happening. The next consultation with patient A was on the 1st of November 2016, which Johnson described as, quote, "Chernobyl," end quote. Patient A was continuing to express feelings for him. He said to her, quote, "If you feel like that, you should cross the floor," end quote. He explained that he was calling her bluff to test whether a relationship was possible because he wanted to escape his life. She became very angry, and he said that this situation escalated very quickly because she was terrified that he would abandon her. After this consult, Dr. Johnson was in daily phone contact with patient A and stated that he still believed that he could regain control of the situation. On the 4th of November, he saw her in an emergency consultation and took the following notes. Quote, "Progress. Experiencing worsening suicidal ideation in context of move to Sydney. Describing hopelessness in face of move. Sense of unreality worsening. Mental state. Mildly dysphoric, restricted range, themes of abandonment and derealization." End quote. Johnson said that he had been trying to, quote, "contain," end quote, the situation, which he explained meant that he paid patient A compliments and told her that he liked her in order to be supportive, because he hoped that he could get things under control. If he tried to pull back by reducing their level of contact, he said that there would be, quote, "drama," end quote. Dr. Johnson used the following example, the incident referred to in his note dated the 7th of December 2016. He says he had tried to pull back and patient A responded by using cannabis. The note says, quote, 7th of the 12th, 2016, progress. Discussed issue of boundaries. Mental state improving after cannabis-induced psychotic episode over weekend. ... End quote. Dr. Johnson said that he had been unsuccessful in containing the situation and that he was, quote, at her beck and call and at her whim, end quote, even though he no longer had the desire to escape. On the 23rd of December 2016, Johnson travelled to Sydney, where patient A was living. He said that he would always tell patient A where he was to avoid an escalation. However, she did not tell him that she was coming to his hotel. He said that he was asleep at 9:30 p.m. when she called him from the lobby and he went down to have a drink with her at the bar. After they had the drink, she came up to his room, they kissed, she got angry and said that she was going to kill herself when she left. He said that he placated her by suggesting lunch the next day. She left, and they did have lunch together on the following day. They continued the therapeutic relationship by telehealth, and in early February 2017, patient A's relative had died, which had a significant emotional effect on her. Dr. Johnson was told that it was the first time that she experienced death in her immediate family. Johnson describes the events leading up to the commencement of their sexual relationship in February 2017 as follows. Quote, I don't know if this is true, but it felt like to me that she would do things to essentially provoke situations and maintain my concerns, and that continued right through to the sort of peak of that when she gets drunk, takes a couple of ecstasy tablets, and ... tells me that she makes a pass at a boy she's liked. ... I think it was early February, and then the following week, I'm going through to Adelaide to see my friends via Sydney, and that was the time in February that she comes to the hotel. End quote. Dr. Johnson continued to treat patient A until 2017 on the 16th of June. However, they continued their relationship after the therapeutic relationship ended. Dr. Johnson said that after February 2017, he paid for everything. Cases New South Wales reports the following. On the 20th of July 2020, the HCCC received a complaint reporting that Dr. Johnson had engaged in a personal relationship with patient A, which had begun during the therapeutic relationship and continued after the therapeutic relationship had ended. Section 150 of Health Practitioner Regulation National Law New South Wales permits the Medical Council of New South Wales to impose conditions on or to suspend the registration of a medical practitioner for the protection of the public or when it is otherwise in the public interest. Action taken under S-150 is interim in nature. On the 25th of February 2001, delegates of the Council resolved for the S-150 proceedings to be convened. The hearing was held on the 15th of March 2021, where Dr. Johnson attended via video conference and was legally represented and gave oral evidence. However, patient A did not provide any evidence during the trial. After the hearing was completed, the delegates of the council decided to impose conditions on Dr. Johnson's registration. They include a prohibition on Dr. Johnson consulting, examining, treating, or performing any procedures on any female patient. A copy of the decision was provided to the HCCC, who referred the matter to the Director of Proceedings to determine whether to prosecute a complaint before a professional disciplinary body. The application for disciplinary findings and orders was filed on the 12th of December 2022, and in its decision on the 15th of November 2023, the tribunal found those elements of the complaint proven. The tribunal found Dr. Johnson guilty of unsatisfactory professional conduct and professional misconduct. They cancelled Dr. Johnson's registration with a non-review period of 2 years. This case is absolutely astounding to me, and when you look at the reviews of Dr. Johnson before all this came out, he absolutely seems like a person, as a medical professional, that I would actually go and see and that I would trust. It is so scary that all of this happened, and yes, he's provided examples of why he was under such high stress, but it's honestly, it's such a shocking case, and he knew the rules. He knew what would happen if he went ahead with this relationship, and he still continued to do so. It says in here that patient A didn't actually give any evidence during the trial, and I can only hope that patient A is doing better now. I really, really hope so. It sounds like they were already going through so much when they started seeing Johnson, and then they had the death of their family member, and to now be going through this and to reflect on it and just to, like, it's so upsetting, honestly. I just hope patient A is doing okay. So those are my thoughts around the case. I just think it's a terrible case. I am happy that they caught it, that he has had his license removed, that they have proved that he actually did these things, and that it is out there. Hopefully, if he does get his license back, I really hope that people do their research and look him up and find this case, and they can make a more educated decision whether they actually choose to see him or not. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on the case. When I first heard of this case, I thought it was absolutely shocking, and I am still trying to understand it and wrap my head around it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, whether on YouTube, on Spotify. There should be like a little poll somewhere where you can let me know what you thought. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Cruel Curiosities. I really hope you enjoyed the first episode. You can support me and this little podcast by following or subscribing if you haven't already done so. You can also like the episode and rate the podcast. I'm really excited for all of the episodes and cases to come, and I hope I can see you guys in the next one. So remember to stay safe and stay curious. Bye.